Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, the All Gracious, the All Merciful. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, dear brothers and sisters who are watching this program. I am Dr. Amini, the Professor of Communications and also teaching in universities about communications and propagations. If you remember, in our previous discussions, we talked about different models of communication, and also we opened up a new chapter of the major theories of communications, especially in mass communication. As we pointed out, mass communication is very important in the field of communications, and we have to very much we can say invest on this issue, on the mass media, if we want to be effective, influential in the world, in introduction of Islam, in being a good model, a role model for others as Muslims. We have to be mastered in communications. And if you want to advertise in its narrow meaning of introducing the real features, the real Islam to the world, okay, and to act properly, we have to ponder upon, and we have to pay consideration to the mass media. In the previous discussion, we talked about cultivation theory. Just as a list, inshallah, in the major theories of communication, I will talk about some complementation on the cultivation theory, and after that, agenda setting theory, the spiral of silence, and media ecology. And also, there are some other theories that, inshallah, we will talk about. In cultivation theory, which was invented the discussion by Marshall McLuhan and Geribner, we emphasized on the point that it is very important to pay attention to the cultivation of a culture in a society. You know, this is important in today's world, that we see some phenomena of phobias in regard with Islam, in regard with Shia, and in general in regard with religiosity. You know, the world is scattered to different divisions, to different segments, to different parts, and you know, many of them are in contrast with one another. For example, we see people are escaping from the fact of religion, religiophobia. You know, you look just at the statistics of those who are running away from religiosity to become atheists, to become anti-religious activists, those who are not believing in any sacred thing. They say that the nature is by itself is running the world. There is no superpower on this issue. There is nothing, we can say, metaphysical on the world to run the world. Start from this concept, start from religiophobia, and come to other phobias. If you see today that we have the concept of Islamophobia or Shiaphobia, or for example, particularly Iranophobia, I don't know, other countries' phobias, there are many phobias. If we see these phenomena in today's world, please know that this is not the result of just a couple of years. This has been started at least from 1 century ago. After the world wars, the Cold War started, and from that on, religiosity and talking about religion, or for example, escaping from a sacred meaning has been, as a matter of fact, started. And after 50 years, 60 years, you see the conclusion, you see the result. You see that in the world we are living, secularism is one of the important values of a free person. Okay, religiosity is away from as a matter of fact, the society, just limited to the personal life. Even in the personal lives also you don't see any trace of religiosity in some spectrums or in some classes of the society. So we as Muslims, we as religious people, we have the duty to introduce religion and introduce Islam at its best mood to all over the world and to all people. And for reaching to this objective, we have to spend time. And as in our previous discussion we talked about, according to cultivation theory, we have to spend decades, okay, to change the mentality of the people. So in cultivation theory, we talked about this issue that if you want to change the situation of the world, we have to spend time. So this was the main theory, one of the main theories of communications, which we talked about, cultivation theory by Gerbner and Marshall McLuhan. We have another major theory, which is called agenda setting theory. What is agenda setting? Agenda setting theory centers around the idea that media outlets tell the public not what to think, but what to think about. Agenda setting hypothesizes that media have the power to influence the public discourse and tell people what are important issues facing society. In agenda setting theory, which is also very important for us to know about, we talk about this point that sometimes the media corporations, the news agencies, in order to gain to their, as a matter of fact, objectives, to their goals, they manipulate the mind of the people as they wish. They do not let the people and let the audience and let those who are watching the TV or reading the news or anything, or they go to the cyberspace, they don't let the people to think about. They guide the mind of the people. They doctrinate, they prescribe to the audience what to do and what to think. For example, in the world we are living, okay, this is mostly political, this agenda setting theory is mostly and majorly dealing with politics. For example, today we have great wars and invasions in Palestine. Okay, for example, by Zionists attacking the Palestine, for example. And the media get the order from their upper hands, from their bosses, from their supervisors, from their policymakers, that please overshadow the war of Palestine and highlight something else, that news dominate the real news, and people's mind and people's attention will go forward that news, not the war that is the main concept of the war. So what is the conclusion? The news which has the most importance, and it is the first of the top 10 news, comes to the bottom and comes to the end of the list of the news, or for example to the near end of the news. So it loses its significance and importance. So in agenda setting, the agencies or the policymakers, or even those who are dealing with religiosity, they as a matter of fact highlight some points in order to dominate and overshadow the other points. So this is one of the theories of the mass communication, and we have to be vigilant on this point. We, as the religious people, or those who are, as a matter of fact, active in religious issues and religious facts, or as Muslims and as those who are representing Shia facts and Shia studies, what we have to do, we have to pay attention. We have to be very aware of the things that are happening around us. Okay, for example, the supreme leader of Iran sends an important letter to the young of the North American, to the Europe youngs. Okay, and this gains and this wins the first news on the news list of all the media. But exactly at the same time, in order to underestimate, in order to, as a matter of fact, to shadow this news, they simultaneously bring a new news of the death of the king of the Saudi Arabia. So it becomes the first news. This is very political. The concept that was supposed to be the first now becomes the second. So in that time exactly, those who were very active and those who were aware of the situation, they tried their best in order to, again, to take this news to bring it to the first, as a matter of fact, row of the list. So the agenda setting is very important, and it's, as a matter of fact, centers around the idea of the media outlets to the public, that not what to think, but what to think about. So this was one of the other techniques and in agenda setting. So if we want to, for example, propagate, if we want to do Tabigh of introducing the real Islam, okay, we can use this theory, and also we can use this technique too. How? For example, we have to bring those beauties which are most important, okay, or bring the news which are not, for example, important for the news agencies, and to make it the top 10 of the news. And this is very important to, as a matter of fact, to prescribe to the world. We have to tell to the world that this is the main news of the Muslims world, and we have to, as a matter of fact, influence. We have to motivate. We have to use stimulus, okay, to say to the world that this is the main news of the Muslim world. The other major theory in the issue, and as a matter of fact in the communication realm, is the spiral of silence. What is a spiral of silence? A spiral of silence, which was developed by Elizabeth Noel Neumann, hypothesizes that people are more likely to reveal their opinion in public if they believe that they are of the majority opinion, for fear that revealing an unpopular opinion would subject them to being a social outcast. This theory is relevant to mass communication because it hypothesizes that mass media have the power to shape people's opinions as well as relay the opinion that is believed to be the majority opinion. In a spiral of silence, which is very near to the model that we talked about, if you remember, to the helical model or the spiral model. In the spiral of silence, likewise, Elizabeth Neumann says that people in the society can be motivated to talk about their opinion only if they understand that he or she is among the majority of the opinion. They cannot be encouraged to talk about the fact that the majority of the society does not believe so. So they are afraid of talking about that concept or talking about some concepts which are, for example, suspicious. According to this theory, Neumann says that slowly by slowly, when people think that there is a gap between the, for example, the high classes of the societies, with those policymakers, with the government, with the leaders, okay, when they see that there is a gap between the leaders and also to the for example, to the normal social people, so they will become silent. They will not dare to talk about anything. Okay, so they prefer to be silent. This silence, slowly by slowly, will lead them toward the total silence. And this is very dangerous to one society. It is very dangerous to one society that, and if the leaders do not pay attention, that the silence of the people sometimes is meaningful, and it doesn't mean that they agree with the policies of the policymakers and the politicians or the governmental body and the staffs. Sometimes people suffer from the absolute silence, from the spiral of silence. This spiral of silence, which starts from the wider space to the, as a matter of fact, narrower space. Okay, like a spring, if you have seen the spring which are used in different facilities and tools, okay, it goes down, and it reaches to the position that the society is dead. And they cannot, as a dead person cannot talk, and it is absolutely silent, the society sometimes can suffer from this point, and they will suffer from that absolute silence. And this is very dangerous to one society. So, according to this theory, it says that mass communication, as a matter of fact, mass communication must take the hand of the people, if it is used properly, and bring them out of deathful silence to add to their courage to talk, to say their opinions in the society. And they have to build a public space that the public opinion and that freedom that all the people can talk about any subject they want. So, a spiral silence is one of the other theories that we have to pay attention and are considerable in the major theories of communication. Inshallah, in our upcoming sessions, we will talk about other theories and also some techniques of, inshallah, communications and skills of communication. Until the next program, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.